9 candidates. 9 of the 15 candidates are with us today, and we're grateful to have all of them. I'm going to call them each up one at a time, and we're going to flash their names across the screen, along with their website, which has been rotating, so you can get some more information on each of these candidates. AFP Foundation, we're a nonpartisan group, so we are here to ultimately offer this as a service to voters, as an education for all of us on where these candidates stand. And then we're going to start out. We've got some pre-screened questions that came, and just so all of you know how this process worked, the memberships of the 4 or 5 sponsor groups for today's event were all solicited over the last few weeks for questions, to submit questions that they would like to ask the candidates. And then the panel of directors from the nonprofit groups that sponsored today's event kind of chose the top 10 or 12 candidates from the full list of questions submitted by the memberships of those groups. Many of you are members of one, if not several, of these groups. We may or may not have time, but I want to go over, before they come up here so they're not sitting here listening to the rules, but you guys pay attention because these are the rules. We're going to go over the rules of the debate real quickly for all of you in the audience and for the candidates as well. Jeremy is helping me with the time. Wave your hand, Jeremy. Jeremy is our timekeeper. And the way we're going to work today is we're going to have the questions that we have. We're going to pose the questions. We're going to have 1 minute introduction for each of the candidates, and we'll just go in order from right to left, left to right. And then we're going to have the questions themselves, and each candidate will get a 30-second response to each of the questions that's posed. Okay? They will be asked not to speak directly to one another, not to engage one another, but to engage the question and the issue and their position on the issue. And that's simply a time issue so that we can get through as many questions as possible and serve everybody with as much information as possible today. So the introductions will be 1 minute long. The responses from each candidate will be 30 seconds or less if they want to take less of their time. But 30 seconds. Jeremy will be keeping me honest and keeping all of us honest on that. And then they'll have 1 minute for closing remarks at the close of the forum today. Now, if we have some extra time before the end of the forum, we'll take a few more questions perhaps from the audience. If you'd like to write a question, we're not going to take it up. You can go to the AFP Foundation table and give us your question, and we'll have that in case we have that time. So here we go with the candidates for the state school superintendent. Nancy Jester. And you can give a round of applause to get out of the way for these guys. All right. Ashley Bell. Jarita Forehand Mays. Fitz Johnson. Richard Woods. Mary Kay Bacquiao. Denise Freeman. Okay. Denise, I imagine you couldn't make it today. Tarnisha Dent. And Kira Willis. All right. And the other thing I did forget to mention, but what we're going to do, just to try to keep it as fair as possible, I've done a number of these before, and sometimes people say, well, I always went first or I always went last. So everyone will get a chance to respond to every question, but I'm not necessarily going to go, once we get past the introductory remarks, left to right, right to left. We'll go in a random order, and just, Jeremy, kind of help me with that a little bit. If I miss anybody, or if you get missed, say, hey, I got missed, because I'll do my best, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, so we're going to start down here on the very end on the left, and Mary Kay Bacquiao. If you can introduce yourself, we'll have 1 minute for your introductory remarks. And please share the microphones. I know we don't have enough mics for everybody, so feel free to grab them and pass them around as needed.
Hi, I'm Mary Kay Bacquiao. Our country built the greatest educational system in the world, and it was all based on local control. I will work for educational freedom for our entire state. The parents of our state should not be accountable to the government. The government should be accountable to parents. I find it a problem that the education lobby is directing what our children learn rather than the parents. In 2010, we accepted lower-level standards, inappropriate school rating systems, unreliable teacher and leader evaluation systems, and corporate monopolies. If elected, I will cut costs by revising the testing systems so they reflect the needs of the teachers and students, allowing competition as school districts select educational materials, and lifting the paperwork burden for teachers and school leaders. School officials will be accountable to parents and local citizens, not the federal government. I will restore parental authority.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all for honoring the time constraints we're under. Kira Willis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kira Willis. I think we need to talk about the purpose of public education, and I believe that that is to graduate self-sufficient, independent people who can contribute to society in a positive manner. As state school superintendent, I believe that we need to talk about three things: funding, educational freedom, and fidelity. And when we talk about funding, we need to make sure that we look at Georgia's funding, which last was passed in 1986. I was a junior in high school. And we look to our neighbors and see that their funding formula actually is much more streamlined, and our students should be able to take this per pupil spending and walk with their feet. That in turn ensures that we get educational freedom for our students. That means charter schools, that means private schools, that means home schools, virtual schools, blended learning, anything that is going to afford our students the ability to follow their passion and follow their promise, and then ensuring that these local school boards and all work with fidelity.
Okay, thank you. Fitz Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Fitz Johnson. I am right here. I'm from right here in Cobb County. Been here for 15 years. My kids graduated through the Marietta City School System. On the Marietta City School System, I served on the school council for 4 years. A little bit about my background. I am a 21-year Army veteran. I'm also started a company called Eagle Group International. We built that company from 0 employees to over 1,700 employees and sold that company a few years ago. I served as a CEO just before we sold it. I've been a coach for over 35 years. I am a sports junkie. I love being around the kids, and I can see it in their face that they want to achieve more. I think if you take my background, my military background combined with my business experience, I feel well suited to be your next state school superintendent. Thank you.
All right. Tarnisha Dent.
Good morning. I am Tarnisha Dent. I'm a product of the Georgia public school system. I'm a native Atlantean. I now work at my high school alma mater, Crim High School, within the Atlanta public school system. I'm a proponent of all children. I believe we need to restore funding so we can have equity within our schools. I'm a teacher advocate. I believe in empowering teachers, teaching them about their evaluation system, providing professional development so that they can grow professionally, and I'm a student advocate. I'm all about listening to the students and their needs and their wants and having choice that supports our public schools and not compete with them. I would love to be your state school superintendent. It has been my life's dream to become Georgia State School Superintendent.
Thank you. Richard Woods.
It's Richard Woods, and I think about what do we want for our children. I think today in today's forum we talk about Americans for prosperity, but we want American prosperity, and that means that we're going to personalize education on an individual level. That when our kids leave high school, that if we want them to prosper, we've got to prepare them with the skill set that will allow them to continue their education, whether it's vocational, military, technical school, business training. We also need to, if they're going to prosper, we need to make sure that they are trained to become very good employees, workers for our businesses, become our future business leaders, and also hopefully one day become small business owners, the backbone of the American economy. But a little bit deeper, we want them to prosper as citizens, to make sure that they have the skill set that they can continue on our American way of life, to continue on American exceptionalism, so that they can transcend that to the next generation that comes their way. Now, in order to do this, we have to do some things. First, we have to make sure that we control education in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Nancy Jester.
Hi, I'm Nancy Jester. Thanks for letting me be here today. Hope is not a method, and if you want to get something done, you ask a mom. Well, I'm a mom with 3 kids in public school in the state of Georgia, and if you want results, if you want lower class sizes, if you want more money in the classroom, if teachers want raises, if we want to get rid of Common Core, I'm the person that has the plan to do it. It's called FOCUS, and you can see it at my website at nancyjester.com. It stands for Financial Integrity, Opportunities and Choices, Consequences for District-Wide Failure, Upgrading Our Funding Formula, and Strong Standards for Georgia, Rejecting Common Core. Again, this is going to actually drive the improvements in the state of Georgia. So if you want results, vote Nancy Jester. Thank you.
Ashley Bell.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I first want to recognize my wife, Lauren, who's here with my son, BW. Been a big part of this campaign. You know, you can talk about what you want to do, but I think you really have to ask, what have you done? If you've ever held elected office, ask how did you respond when you were given that charge to keep? I was a former vice chair of the Hall County Commission where we cut government by 15%. Not many elected officials can tell you they cut government by 15%. And here's how you do it. You keep the federal government out of your budget. You keep mandates out of your budget. And that's the only way you're going to stop Common Core is you got to keep DC in DC and not in Atlanta and out of Georgia. Now, my wife and I have been working for 10 years focusing on the real problem in our schools, and that's dropout rates. The smartest kids in Georgia are just as smart as the smartest kids in New York or California. We're behind because the bottom third of our kids are being left there. They're being left at the bottom. For 10 years, my wife and I have run a nonprofit that's focused on nothing but getting dropout rates up, getting dropout rates to a point to where we're seeing more of our students from homes that are challenged on the right path to career and success. I'm a charter school chair. I've chaired our middle and high school. And ask someone what are their results in their past, and you can see where they're going to go in the future. AshleyBell.com. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Jarita Forehand-Mays.
Good morning. My name is Jarita Forehand-Mays, as you've heard several times announced this morning. I do want to thank you all for coming out this morning because you should and could be somewhere else enjoying the day. Look like it's going to be a grand day. But I am actually running for a state school superintendent because of a passion for children. Believing that the resources that we have in the state of Georgia is well allocated enough in terms of to take care of all of Georgia's children, to make sure that all the resources in the classroom where it is needed, where how many teachers we need in the classroom, that we have those there. Whatever the needs are for the children and for the teachers, we sometimes forget that there are teachers. If a teacher is whole and sound mind, they're able to communicate well to that children and meet the needs of the child. So again, vote Jarita Mays.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Now there were several categories that we're going to go over today, and the candidates were all given the categories ahead of the debate. The categories are your philosophy on education, the standards in education, funding, technology, student protections, school choice, and accountability. So we've got a lot of ground to cover in a little bit of time. So the first question is pretty broad. What is the purpose of education? That's pretty basic. We're going to start, let me start with Fitz right here on the other end. Fitz Johnson. Yes, what is the purpose of education, your philosophy of education?
When I think about education, the first thing I think about is my mom and dad. When I was growing up, the first thing you can remember about education is your mom and dad saying, hey, let's learn to read. Respect your elders. These are the things that you want to make sure that you instill in your young kids. So I think the purpose of education is I told my kids when they walk out the door, I said, what have you done for God and your country? 2, I want you to be a happy and productive citizen. That's the purpose of education.
Okay. All right, let's go to Richard Woods, right in the middle.
I've already touched on that just a bit, but the purpose of education, and first is to give them the foundation. That means our kids, by the time they leave 5th grade, need to have a proficiency of reading, writing, and math, because that sets the table for everything beyond, school itself. But once they leave school, as we said, 3 things that we look at our kids. They have to have the educational skill set so they can continue education. Again, military, whether it's vocational, whether it's university training, job training, and so forth to that, because learning is lifelong. Secondly, they need to have the skill set to become very good employees. And then lastly, be good citizens. Thank you.
Okay. Mary Kay Bacchia on the end.
The first purpose of education is that kids would learn how to read and read well. They also need to know how to write. They need to know how to do math and do problem solving. And if we look at some of the things that have been proposed to be changed in House Bill 897, they were going to actually eliminate the separate testing of reading, the separate testing of writing. So I fought to stop that. All these programs that seek to change students' views and beliefs, I don't think they have a place in public education. I think parents need to be responsible for that.
Okay. Let's go right next door to Kira Willis.
Thank you. I've already talked about the purpose of education. Again, it is to graduate self-sufficient, independent people who can contribute to society in a positive manner and help 21st century America compete in the marketplace. And we can do this by ensuring educational freedom for our students, educational freedom for our parents, and educational freedom for our communities. It is imperative that we afford our people the ability to walk with their feet by ensuring that our funding formula is adhered cost per pupil.
Okay. Let's go down to Ashley Bell on this end of the table.
Thank you.
Look.
Thank you. Education is a primary responsibility of parents. It's moms and dads making choices for their children, whether that's homeschool, private school, or public schools. I think Frederick Douglass said it best, a former slave who freed himself through learning to read. Education, reading, was the key to his freedom. And that's going to be the key to make sure our nation remains free, is that we give every child an opportunity to read and to take their own future into their own hands.
All right. Jarita Forhan-Mays. Yeah, you can probably just leave them on.
I think that the purpose for education is to help children as they develop and grow in different levels and stages in their physical bodies, that their mental bodies also grow and develop with them, meaning that they have a sound mind, meaning that they're able to compete with the real world whenever they leave middle school, high school, and then on to college, that they are able to fit into the society in which we have today and to be able to be productive in that society.
Okay. Nancy Jester.
We educate children so that we can transmit society, pass along civilization from one generation to the next, okay? And the second reason we do is also to arrest the transmission of poverty from one generation to the next. And I believe it was Epicletus that said, only the educated are free. So it really is fundamentally about individual freedom because we don't want to shackle any child to a life that they don't deserve because we did not transmit society from one generation to the next.
Okay. This next question is oh, I'm sorry. Tanisha did.
I think education is empowerment for our children. I think education should foster a life of lifelong learning and encourage our students to move forward so that they are productive citizens that are able to compete globally. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. This next question is something we've heard about a lot. It's been in the news a lot this year, national standards. And whether it's been Goals 2000, No Child Left Behind, most recently Common Core we've heard a lot about, even during the legislative session. The question here is, do you support the national standards movement that's been underway, and why or why not? So let's start this time down here on this end. Jarita Forhan-Mays.
The national standards, I do support the national standards because it gives you a guideline, gives you a roadmap. Not that it's 100% accurate, not that it's perfect, but I think that if in schools, because we can't really cookie cut schools, every school has its own climate, has its own environment, so it has to be where it is meeting the needs of children to help them to learn so they can be successful in school.
Okay. Richard Woods, we'll go to the middle here.
What I support are the best standards. I think by doing so, we look at whatever we adopt, does it provide our kids with the skill set they need to succeed in life? And so we have to take that in evaluation, whether it's national standards, whether it's state standards. The bottom line is, does it give our kids the education that will allow them to continue educating themselves, allow them to work, allow them to succeed in life. So it's, looking at quality versus quantity, and I think we have to have that. Thank you.
Okay. Tarnisha Dent.
Well, I think Common Core does offer our students and our teachers a blueprint. I am waiting on a curriculum that fosters a continued thirst for knowledge. That means a curriculum that we as a state can sustain and that we have personnel in place to support our curriculum. Our children deserve a consistent curriculum that will encourage their growth and development. I am a proponent for securing personnel at our Department of Education so that we can implement a curriculum.
Kira Willis.
Well, there's a couple things. Standards does not equal curriculum, and we need to remember that.